Good morning, everybody. I'm Mark Drumheller here. Conference championship weekend. The action got started last night with an incredible game, USC against Utah. But we got all the action today. Ton of games lined up and a ton of bets. I'm Mark Drumheller here with my guy Dave Gleckner from Win Daily Sports. Dave, the chaos started early, and now the playoff picture is starting to get shaken up a little bit.
Yeah, think about just even back a little bit to about maybe 4 p.m. last Saturday. It was Oregon's to have, and I think USC would have been completely fine with Oregon, even though I know I might have still leaned Oregon in that game, but I'm telling you that they didn't want to see Utah. And then Washington pulls the trick late at night, and there's Utah waking up at 2 a.m. finding out they're in. And it's just – here's my opinion of this, and I don't know if you have the same. For one, the game against Notre Dame was too much of a Heisman showcase for me and a party. And it came back and bit them. They had this game won, up 17-3, forced the fumble, and they go for it on fourth down, and they don't get it. And all of a sudden, the momentum shifts. Caleb gets a little dinged up on that slide, and they just can't get out of it. It's not a party anymore. And when it's not a party and they're not having fun, they can't mentally get out of it. And it's going back a long way with this coach. He comes up short in big games, so I wasn't too surprised, but I know the injury definitely impacted that game.
Yeah, I think that's really what the game came down to. I think it was two games. It was, Caleb before the big run and then Caleb after the big run. And there's just a massive difference in what he was able to do on the field after that. And, it let Utah back in the game. I think, to your point, the combination, I thought it was more like, we talk about the fourth down, definitely important. But when they decided to kick that field goal, I didn't like that message either. I thought they could have really went for the jugular there. Yeah. And it's like, hey, you got Caleb Boyd, you got, one of the most high-powered offenses in the league. I thought they should have went for the touchdown, but, it's a tough break for USC, I think, to get Caleb Williams there. And listen, they would have got crushed by Georgia. Don't get me wrong, but all these teams are getting crushed by Georgia. I don't think Ohio State's going to be very competitive in that game. I think Georgia's defense is going to be, pretty tough for them to handle from a pass rush perspective. We've seen, Ohio State struggle with some physical teams, even Northwestern, right? So this is going to be a big step up in competition. The prototype of a team that they don't necessarily like to play or have success against, but that's going to be a conversation for the next few weeks. Talking about the playoff picture right now, Dave, USC drops the bag. They're out of there, right? Ohio State sneaking right in. We still have the fourth spot. We have TCU, huge game against Kansas State. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Guys, if you have any best bets, drop them in the comments, any questions. We're going to hit a couple games here today, but if there's anything you want to talk about, let us know. But TCU, a chance to secure that fourth spot. But, listen, I think they got to win this game. If they lose the game and are competitive, it's probably a different conversation. They're probably still in there. But if they go out and lay a dud, I think they might be in a little bit of trouble. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had a lot of discussions about this lately, and I think to me, it's pretty clear. I think TCU has to win, and I think they – not even win with style, just have to win. Lose close, and I'm not even sure they're in. Bama's lost 2 games this year to the Tennessee Volunteers, who were at one point number 1 in the nation. We're right up there, I should say, in the top 2 or 3 with Georgia. And they lost to LSU, who squeaked into the top 10 recently, both on last-second plays, a 2-point conversion and a field goal. So it's pretty clear to me, at least the way I see it, it's Bama time. And if TCU slips up, even in a close game, I think it's Bama time, the first 2-loss team to make the playoffs. I just
wow. So if you think they lose a close one, they're out and they're going to let Bama in over 1-loss TCU.
I do. I really do. I mean, TCU played Tarleton and SMU in their out of conference. I know.
And Bama, listen, you can call them 2-loss Bama, and I get it, man. But they played Tennessee tight. They should have won that game against Tennessee. In Tennessee.
That pass interference still
haunts me. Yeah.
And they win that game.
So I think it's a conversation if the game is close. If K-State runs all over them, and K-State has the ability to do that. Like we saw them get out to a big lead in the first half of the first matchup. I think if K-State wins with margin, I think TCU is definitely in trouble. If it's a close, hard-fought battle game, I don't know. I wonder if they give the edge to TCU, but I'm sure they want Bama in there.
So what happens? Let me take your scenario, and they lose a close one. Who's 3 and who's 4?
TCU's 4.
And Ohio State jumps up to 3, and you get the Michigan Ohio State game.
You get the rematch, yeah. You get the rematch.
Like I could see that, and that'd be pretty.
I would love it. Yeah, I would love that. I think that would be great, and I think the fans would love it too because, while that game looked bad on paper, and while Michigan, it beat them up in their own place, I think it would be more competitive the second time around. And I think a lot of people think that it'd be much more competitive the second time around on a neutral. But I don't know.
It was. I mean, it was just
for the most part, they pulled away. Yeah. Like the interesting part about that game, and I don't want to spend too much time on this. We got plenty of games on the slate, but Michigan won on explosive plays, and that's something they didn't do the entire year. So can they repeat that?
That's Ohio State.
Huh?
They end in the box.
Yep.
And they have
100%. Yeah.
Yep.
So but they dared them to beat them that way, and they did.
Yep.
And I think they didn't have an answer. They were like, "Oh, we didn't expect this." So,
and they kept doing it. And they said, McCarthy beat me.
I'd be interested to see what the line is in the rematch. But going to be a lot of fun. We got plenty of time to get into that. We got our guy Shady checking in. He likes Fresno State today on the money line. Dave, is that a game you're targeting?
It's a game I'm targeting. We'll talk about that a little bit.
All right, perfect. So you're on the right side there. We're going to hit that one a little later. First, we want to get to what I think is the biggest game, playoff implications. TCU -2.5 favorites against Kansas State. And this is two teams very familiar with each other. Dave, we bet this game the first time around, ended up very frustrated, right? We had K-State. K-State gets out to an early lead, dominates them in the first half, 28-17. And then they drop the bag. Adrian Martinez gets hurt. Will Howard comes in. He gets hurt. He leaves the game. He ends up coming back. They don't get the job done. TCU, winning games at the end like they've been doing all year. It's just been what they've been doing. The story for TCU. They did it in this one. Now they got to do it again against K-State. I'm on the dog here. I like K-State with the points. I took the 2.5. I think that's a solid play. I think that they're going to win this game. I think they're going to win it outright. I wouldn't be mad if somebody played a little money line, but just the way these two teams play, I think we could be in for a 1-point game, or it could be an overtime game. So having, if we're in triple overtime, having that 2.5 is very valuable.
Yeah, I kind of lean your way as well. It's not one of probably my best bets on the board, but playing a game today in an environment that we go back to the original game, and you had a couple fluky pieces in play. Mm-hmm. Adrian Martinez goes down very early, I think after the first or second drive. Then Howard comes in. He goes down. They bring in this other kid. I can't even remember his name. Started with R. He throws a pick, and they're like, "Yo, Howard, here's the special sauce. You're coming back in." And then he comes in, and he throws a pick. So it was just all over the place. But they're up 28-17.5, like you said. Got outscored 21-0 in the second half. Lost the turnover differential 2-0. I think it might have been their only game they lost the turnover differential because they're 5th in the nation at +13. So it's just a lot of fluky events, I'll say, led to that final score. And I think these teams are very even. And it's very similar to last night. Playing the team a second time. This has happened in Big 12, I think, 10 times. This is 11th. And the team that won the first time won the second time 6 times. The other team won 4. So it's pretty even. I think you're on the right side, though. I think K-State is as close as they can be to this team, and I think they're going to be ready and prepared for this game. And TCU's on fumes, man. I know they had that big game against Iowa State last week, but God, they haven't had a bye since September.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just emotional game after emotional game after emotional game. Quentin Johnson is going to be a go. I think from an injury standpoint, I think he's going to be fine. They had a little bit of scare with Johnny Hodges, the linebacker that came in from, I believe he came in from Navy, but he's been outstanding this year. I want to say he's their leading tackler. He had a hamstring he was kind of dealing with. We saw last night with Caleb Williams how that can change a game, right? But he seems to be okay and ready to go as well. But that could be something that pops up. And if that's something that pops up in game, I think that's definitely going to hurt him against a team that wants to give you a heavy dose of, Deuce Vaughn. Like, that's really what Kansas State wants to do here. So they're going to need Hodges playing at elite level today. I just think that, I love TCU and I want them to win. And I found myself like in handicapping this game, like when the line came out, I said, oh, it's under 2.5. I really like TCU. If I can get anything under 3, I want to wait. I want to see if I can get it under 2. Like, is it going to go in that direction? And then as the week went on and I started like diving deeper into it, I just couldn't get there with TCU. Like I found myself saying like, well, you know what? I should play the money line. Maybe I'll play the money line if it gets low enough. That way I don't have to worry about laying points. And if you don't want to lay 2.5, then there's a reason. You know what I mean? And that's really what it comes down to. And it's, I think Kansas State, as much as I like the TCU story and I'll be rooting for them, I don't think they're the side here. So I did end up betting Kansas State. I think they get it done here as an underdog with the better defense and the better running game. So I like K-State in this matchup.
Yeah, Deuce only got 12 carries in the first game. I think it's because they got a little bit off script once they kind of, had quarterback injuries and stuff. Heavy Deuce today. I think that's the way.
I think so too.
And
so guys, listen, we're gonna see a lot of live movement today in these games. Make sure you're on the Sharp app. It gives you the best odds to all your favorite sports books. Download it in the link below. We're gonna have our professional handicappers in there, giving out, winning picks all day. You can chop it up for free with them in the Discord. Link is in there below as well. You can see AI predictions for every single, using our models for every single game today on the app. So make sure you download the app if you haven't and get in the Discord and finish the season in the green. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to finish the year strong as we head into bowl season, which is a whole different animal. But, listen, we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff with that as well. Dave, let's get into another game I want to talk about. LSU and Georgia. Georgia here laying a big number. Daniels is going to give it a go. He's got a bum ankle, right? But he's gonna be out there against this Georgia defense that absolutely slaughtered Hendon Hooker and Tennessee's prolific offense. So I think that's why you see the big number here. We got a total of 52. Pretty big spread for a total of that size. What is your take on this game? Is Georgia going to have the motivation to win with margin here?
Yes. So here's your motivation, and I'll make it simple. Georgia did not win the SEC last year.
Yep.
So, I mean, that was one kind of blemish on their great season last season, and I think it's motivation enough going into today.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
2-0 USA going down. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I saw it a couple seconds before you, and
we need a goddamn field goal here. What is going on?
And the worst part is there was about 20 seconds left in play until they blew the whistle. US had a shot before that the goalie saved. They've actually dominated the play, and they're down 2-0. So that already tells you where this game's going.
We got to get a field goal. We need Justin Tucker out there.
Yeah, need a whole lot of Justin Tuckers. So I just think the motivation's there. Obviously, I think LSU. I mean, what we saw from them last week can really start to wrap a bow on what they are. Losing to Texas A&M is just terrible. That team is so bad, and they let up, I want to say, 30 points to A&M, and I mean that's unheard of this year with how bad that team is. So I think. Defensively, they're not going to be able to handle the physicality of Georgia. And then offensively, Jalen Daniels, playing or not, I think there is some injury aspect that he's going to have to deal with. And this ain't the right dogs to deal with when you have injuries. I think it's Georgia big in this game. I truly believe they'll be motivated. And I think they want to put a stamp on being one of the best teams ever in college. And they'll have a chance if they can roll through this tough SEC and then the playoffs in fashion. So I think today starts that fashion show.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they are going to come out, and we saw against Oregon, and like they can dominate a first half and get a big enough lead to where they can still call the dogs off at the end and still win with margin. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think LSU just kind of limping in. I like Georgia, and like I said, I think it's the pass rush that's really going to keep LSU from scoring too much. And, they're going to be able to match up with their receivers. Like, they have guys. That's one thing you saw from the Tennessee game. Like, you can have the best receivers in the country, and they can line guys up to stick them. So, I think it's a good matchup here. I don't think this number is high enough. I think, Georgia wins this one with style. The other big game, I'm not so sure. Like, I don't know if I would lay it with Michigan against Purdue. I think I might end up being on Purdue in that one. I like the dog in that matchup, but this one, I like Georgia laying the points here. Another game I want to hit that I like as well, Dave. I know we talked about this one a little bit offline. Is the Clemson Tigers laying what I think is a big number over the key number of 7 against the Tar Heels. Clemson, we know the story with them. Their defense looks great on paper, right? All year, we've been waiting for them to show up. Really haven't showed up, right? They got chewed up by Wake Forest. We've seen them just kind of last week. Spencer Rattler is hitting them for 30-something points and lighting cigars in the locker room. I just don't think that this is a good culture right now at Clemson, and I question their motivation in this game, to be honest with you. And I think 7.5 with an explosive offense with North Carolina is a buy. Now, Clemson's going to bully them in the trenches, and they're going to run on them, and they're going to. But Drake May, I think, is going to be able to strike back. UNC is 7th in the country in explosive pass plays of 20-plus yards or more. For a reference point, Wake Forest is 12th, right? So, they have the type of talent that Wake Forest had that was able to kind of expose the Clemson defense. So I just can't lay this kind of number with Clemson. I think UNC is a buy here. And I think the transfer portal is going to be very interesting at Clemson because I'm wondering, how many of these players are really going to believe in Clemson moving forward after, what was supposed to be a year that kind of washed away what happened the previous year. I think it's still kind of the same where people just don't believe in Clemson.
So I kind of ripped Lincoln Riley last night coming on talking about, he asked Caleb at one point, hey, are you 50%? He shook his head. And this jabroni keeps him out there on the last 2 drives down 2 and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, ridiculous.
So the reason I bring up Lincoln Riley is because there's one jabroni that's a bigger jabroni than Lincoln, and that's Tabo Sweeney. This guy is a complete asshole. Like, excuse my French, whatever. Still darting out ahead of his team, still the show on the field at all times. Even in their one big win this year, he's got it taken on him to go on a 3-minute press conference with the sideline reporter all about himself, hyping up this team. You said the word culture and got me fired up because this guy has created what I think is somewhat of a poisonous culture, and it's been the mismanagement of his quarterback situation, I think, too. And maybe there's some logic to the Brett Venable, was maybe the glue of that team and couldn't tell him to shut up and stop being Dabo. I don't know, but it's definitely been a different Clemson team this year. And it's to a point where it is a little bit like losing to South Carolina last week and letting Spencer Rattler run around and do that kind of stuff on your home field that you've never even really had a threat to them. I mean, they're the first non-conference loss at home in 50-plus games. It was something crazy. There's something not right there. Now, with that said, the last 5 ACC championship games haven't been close. They've been an average of 32-point blowouts, and it's been the favorite each time. So it's really interesting how these games typically play out, but I'm going to look at the now. And I kind of like where you're at. I think Mac Brown can motivate his team. I think Drake May can play well and move the ball against his team. If Rattler did it, if Hartman did it, and other teams, if this isn't the Clemson defense of old, I would take the points, but I'm taking it with a little fear here because I know if you get physical with North Carolina, it could be a long day.
Oh, you can beat them up, stuff them in the locker. There's no doubt. But if you look at some of the games, let's look at the games this year when Clemson was a favorite of, this size, 7 points or more, right? Yeah, they didn't get it done against, Syracuse, they didn't get it done against South Carolina, laying 14.5, you know what I mean? Louisville, they covered that game. I think it was I want to say they won by 2 touchdowns, but, Cunningham gets hurt. The backup comes in, still throws for 4, he still had a ton of offense in that game.
Yep.
I want to say they had over 400 yards of offense. So I just don't know. Like, yeah, they beat Miami, right? They beat the brakes off Miami. Like, that's not impressive.
Everybody has. Yeah.
Yeah, like so I just when I looked up and down their schedule, and I'm like, when they've been in these types of situations, now it's different because it's conference championship. Like, I can understand that they're going to be, motivated, but I don't know. I think some of these guys have one foot out the door too. I don't know. I think it's the motivation edge is going to be with North Carolina. This is a spot where they didn't expect to be, and I think they come out and they give a spirited effort here, and they can kind of stay within this number. Listen, if this thing was like 5.5, I'm not touching it. You know what I mean? But getting it over to 7, I think it makes a ton of sense here. I don't think that Clemson's going to be able to pull away. I think even if they do dominate early, that there's backdoor potential with Drake May and his UNC offense.
Yeah, they played 3 ranked teams. They won in double overtime. They won late by 10 over NC State, and we see what they are now. And then obviously Syracuse.
But that was when Leary went out, right?
Yep.
That the game Leary went out?
I thought
was Leary out that game, or was that Syracuse?
No, it's Syracuse. Leary played.
All right.
Yeah. Late in the game, someone came in and threw one pass, Jones. But so he might have played. He played most of the game.
Leary played awful, but he played. Yeah.
But three games against ranked teams, averages 6-point victory, 6-7 point victory. So that's really where they've been, and those aren't really quality ranked teams. I just said Syracuse, NC State, and
yeah,
I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, and UNC is not a world beater, right?
Well,
like they're
none
not,
of them are ranked.
We know that.
But yeah, but the point being, like, they just don't play very well against. They're just not very good. Even they're 2-2 in their last 4, and the 2 wins, like you said, Louisville a little struggle, pulled away late. Miami, who cares? But they lost Notre Dame. They lost South Carolina. So I can't trust the team right now like this. So I would take the points. I'm with you.
Yeah, I love it, dude. All right, let's squeeze one more in. I know Eric wanted to talk about the Fresno State game, Dave, and I think that's one you got on your radar. You got a bet on this one on Fresno State, liking the Bulldogs in this matchup.
I do, and it's not that, like, money line, great. Eric, take them, money line, go ride the dog, but I'm taking the points. And right now I can get 3. Some spots, if you want to buy that little extra half, I wouldn't be against it. But here's the fact of the matter. Boise's kind of, they're in a little transition here. They're trying to figure out, what they are, a running team, a passing team. And last week they get up really big against Utah State and almost blow the thing. They were up almost 3 touchdowns, almost blow, have to hold on late. And then you look at the game before that, they struggled against Wyoming. They did beat Fresno earlier this year, but let's kind of reel our time machine and go back to that one. And they had a guy named Fife playing quarterback. They didn't have Hayner. And Hayner is the guy, man. He's averaging over 300 passing yards per game. He's out for a little revenge here. I think this is a great situation where they're kind of being counted out already. Fresno was 1-4 after the Boise State game this year and found a way to make it to this championship game. And I think they have the motivation. They have the edge. Boise hasn't been playing for much the whole last 2 weeks here. But here we go. Fresno, they're on a 7-game win streak. I think they make it 8 today. I like the outright. I'm going to call it, but I'm going to feel safer taking the points. And I'll take Fresno State with Hayner at the helm to really pull one out this week.
So we're going to do a little conference championship Bulldog parlay. We're going to do a little Fresno State, Georgia, a little Bulldogs.
I wouldn't mind, and Shady put up a tease. If you want to play that, play the tease. I'm not a huge parlay guy. I'll parlay props. I don't love parlaying games. I like to just take my money and run.
Well, especially when you're using the dog, yeah. But
yeah.
Little Georgia, little Fresno State running with the Bulldogs today. Great stuff. Listen, Dave, before we get out of here, I want to talk about he likes Hayner. He's Hayner,
awesome.
Definitely.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
yep.
He's good, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Games are going to be great today. I love that there's playoff implications with each of them. Dave, if you had to guess right now, how do you think the college football playoff goes down? 1 through 4. We talked about this a little bit earlier. If we're
go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, we're pretty good idea that Ohio State's going to squeeze in now. Mm-hmm. How do we think 1 through 4 is going to shake out?
So I'll go Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Bama. I think that is just such a classic playoff. And people are going to be pissed at it. And we got to wait 2 years to get to the 12 team. So
I'm actually not pissed at it. Like
I'm okay
wouldn't
with it.
mind.
It's
Yeah.
two, and if you just heard my rankings, it's Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, Michigan. How good of a January 1st is that? Like,
Yeah.
that's exciting. That's two powerhouses in each conference. Don't split them up. Let's see the best of the SEC play the best of the Big Ten in the finals. That's what I want to see. Listen, TCU gets there. I'm gonna love it. And the story's gonna be great. Max Dugan's one of my favorite players in college football this year. He's just been an absolute stud. So if they pull it out, but I just think I think Kansas State gets it done today. So that's my 4.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I think that now I don't know. I think TCU might get in because I do think that game is going to be close, and it'll be interesting to see what the committee does. Like if it's like I don't know, it'll be tough. I mean, but I wouldn't mind seeing Alabama in there. Like I think Alabama might be more deserving than Ohio State, or I don't know if I should say that, but I think Alabama could be more competitive.
No, they are. They're more deserving
against Ohio State. Yeah.
But Ohio State's got the edge because of what just came out in the rankings. But you lose to 23 at home and play nobody else the rest of the year. And Bama has no, they're more deserving, but they won't do it because of the 2 losses. I get it.
I just think Alabama matches up better with them because they can be physical with the Georgias and the Michigans, where I don't think Ohio State can be. And I think that's kind of like the difference, right? So, when it's from like a pure matchup perspective, like I think Alabama is the better matchup, for these other playoff teams than Ohio State. What the committee is going to do, who knows? But I actually, wouldn't be mad if Bama gets in there, but I actually think TCU has a shot if they keep this thing competitive and end up on the losing end. So if I had to guess, I would say TCU's the 4, and it's going to be like really ugly against Georgia. And they're going to be like, why did we do this? But who knows, man? It's all about ratings. So we'll see what they come up with. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. We have bowl season approaching. And listen, we're not going to be back next Saturday for bowl season. We're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to target specific games and have pop-up previews where we give you those best bets for the games that night. So that could happen. Bowl season games are happening all over the place. So it could be any time during the week. It could be on the weekends. We're going to mix it up a little bit just so we can target specific games for bowl season. It's going to be a lot more fun. So make sure you join us. And listen, the one way to make sure when we're going to pop up and preview these games is to subscribe right here to the Sharp App YouTube channel. So that's the key, right? Go hit the like button, hit the subscribe button to make sure you get notified, when we're going live for these bowl games. So exciting stuff. Can't wait to kind of clean up a bowl season and, finish this season strong before the college football playoff. And Dave, I think it's going to be good. I think Georgia's the favorite right now, but I'm not sure I would say that they're a lock to repeat as champions.
No, listen, nobody goes through it that easy. Georgia will be tested. What game? We'll be there to tell you, but they're going to be tested. And Jones, before we get out of here, one other thing. One of my favorite bets of the day. I know we're wrapping up. Take the green wave. Tulane.
Oh, Tulane, right? We forgot to talk about Tulane.
Yeah,
I green wave.
Listen, UCF, I'm so negative on coaches, as you've heard in some of the other talks. Gus Malzahn's in that trio, or that triumvirate of guys I don't like. And I think he's terrible, and he's going to be bad today. They slipped up against Navy. They almost lost to SMU. Well, after the loss to UCF, Tulane's like, you know what? We're getting back there, and we're going to get our revenge. And they go and they stomp Cincy. We loved that game last week. And now they're here, and they tried to get Willie Fritz to go to Georgia Tech. Didn't happen. He's going to stay with Tulane, and I love this game today. Tulane, and Tulane.
Absolutely love it. What do we call it, Dave?
The green wave.
The green wave of cash, baby. It's going to be
it.
pouring in today. Absolutely love it. Tulane, make sure you punch that one in as well. Listen, lot of fun games today. A lot of good bets, a lot of angles to hit. So we appreciate you guys joining us again. Like and subscribe. Put the notifications on for the Sharp App YouTube. That way you'll know when we go live during bowl season. We're going to be all over the place, popping up, trying to get angles. A lot of variance with a lot of people opting out. So, we're going to hit those games as they come during bowl season. But we appreciate you hanging with us. Good luck today. Hope you cashed all your bets, and we'll see you guys for bowl season.